For Coach, please.
Kim, I saw you had signs up emphasizing rebounding. What went into that decision to kind of, I guess, emphasize that to the team?
I think it's really important in March that you have to rebound. You got to rebound, you got to hit foul shots. And so that's just something we've been talking about. And it was a major key in our last game against Texas.
Any difference in the emphasis of rebounding during the season compared to the postseason? Any differences with it?
No, not really. I just hope our players take it a little more serious.
With the signs that kind of, they feel like they're a better visual learner, the reminders kind of help them, stick in their mind?
We're just trying to make things a little different for postseason. I think it's a new season, and sometimes it can get monotonous. It can get kind of routine, and you're still in the same building. You're still wearing the same practice gear. So just trying to make it a little bit different for them, just because it's such a long year.
You said last week before you went up, everything, you liked what the energy and what you felt on the practice floor. Do you like the carryover you've seen of that since this past weekend?
We only had one day. We were okay yesterday. We were a little tired, a little sluggish. So we actually kind of just chopped practice down after seeing what they looked like. So hopefully today is better.
You might have a different perspective because it's your first year, but what's maybe the energy on campus or maybe amongst the coaches with what the athletic programs have been able to do from baseball, football to basketball as well?
It's amazing, and I'm happy to be a part of it. I think there's a long time there where you don't want to be the coach that didn't reach the standard of the other coaches just around you on a day-to-day basis. And when you are around success, it breeds success.
Texas is the only game that you ended up missing. Does it feel full circle at all to be able to get to coach against them from the sideline?
I think it will. I think it'll be nice to be back on the floor and to get that opportunity back.
Obviously, Texas is a much better rebounding team that you're going to face this weekend, but just the way that your team attacked the glass last weekend, do you feel like they've made the strides you wanted them to? Just how do you kind of feel like they are going into this matchup?
I mean, the work's never done. I do think we rebounded well last week. It's a new week. It's a bigger opponent. It's a more physical opponent, and we just have to continue to do that focused effort. And there have been some games this year where I have questioned, are we capable? Are we capable of rebounding with this team? And watching the Texas game was one of them. So just making sure that we have a focused effort with a sense of urgency on the boards.
Does Texas look any different now from when you're?
They're playing much better. They're playing much better. And I think we are too. So I do think it'll be a different game, but their half-court defense has improved significantly. At least it looks like that on film. Their full-court pressure has improved significantly since their last loss.
Advantage or disadvantage, or either to playing a common opponent, somebody you've already played this year?
Kind of neutral. It's a little bit of motivation for us because we didn't win the first time, but sometimes it's nice to play someone new.
You said on the first day in Columbus last week you had a tough time putting a pulse on whether the team wanted to be the underdog or if they wanted to feel pressure and just how to motivate them. Do you feel like you learned a little bit more in that respect after last weekend?
It doesn't really matter now. Now we're 100% the underdog, and that's what we're going with.
There were maybe moments in the game against Ohio State where it felt like they took their foot off the gas. How important is it that moment where maybe they're peeking at the scoreboard does not happen?
You guys say that you guys think we took our foot off the gas. I don't think we did. I just think that was a really good opponent, and that was bound to happen. There have been games where we have taken our foot off the gas, but I think that was the game where they just hit us, and we didn't blink. We didn't seem phased whatsoever. Nobody in our program knew it was a 16-0 run. I'll tell you that. That's how locked in and focused we were. We just played right through it, and they were bound to go on a run because they play similar to how we do, and I think I was incredibly proud of our response.
Why were they able to keep the focus then in those moments?
I think they're locked in. They're playing together as a team. Our huddles were tight. We had a lot of high fives. We had a lot of great energy, and to see that when we were getting hit was a big step for this program. It's a step that we needed.
In the first few practices of the year, just anything that stood out that they could make it to this point to be a Sweet 16 team?
Yeah, I think from the very beginning of meeting this team, their mindset was a hungry mindset. And maybe we lost that somewhere along the way, but I think we have it back. And, as a coach, you can't sit here and think, okay, we got it. Let's check that box. Let's pat ourselves on the back. We have to continue to motivate. We have to continue to stay locked in. We have to continue to play the underdog card and play as hard as we can in our next game.
How has the way that you motivate them changed throughout the season?
I don't necessarily know that it has. I think that towards the back half of our regular season play, maybe we lost our motivation a little bit, and something that I'll have to dig in and do a deep dive when I evaluate the season once it's over about kind of where we went wrong there. But I think the energy and effort level of practice is substantially different than it was 3 weeks ago.
I know last year you would have liked to make a deeper run than you did, but coaching players that have NCAA tournament experience already, does that kind of change how you've approached this tournament run?
Yeah, I think so. I think when you're at a mid-major, your ceiling is your ceiling, and it's usually you're going to get waxed in the first round. And so it's really nice to be a part of a program that, you know, your ceiling is a lot higher than that.
What do you feel like it says about the team that maybe they did lose that competitive edge towards the end of the season, but they got it back and they, you know, decided this isn't how the season is going to end and decided to make a run this week?
I think it's really rare. I think it's really rare this day and age that you have a team that doesn't just check out and say, well, I'm moving on to the next thing. Or if you don't have a coaching staff that moves on and says, I'm moving on to the next class of kids, let's just go ahead and start recruiting. I think it says a lot about the resiliency of this program, coaching from our assistant coaches to our players, that they cared enough about each other to just check back in and fix it, as opposed to say, oh, well, we failed. And they figured it out. And I thought we looked really good our last two games. I'm happy we're going to the Sweet 16. I'm proud of that, but I'm more proud of the way we looked on the floor. I'm incredibly proud of the way we looked on the floor our last two games. And despite what happens in our next game, I hope that those last two games can be something that we remember as a group of how hard we played and how we played together.
Obviously work isn't done, but is that the kind of team you envision them being in March? Is that kind of like the potential you saw in them the way they played last game?
Yeah, that's the way they have to be in March. If we want a long March, that's the way they got to be.
Was there a moment you felt that switch flip? You said you felt them check back in. Do you feel like that was one moment or just kind of?
No, it was prolonged during our 13 days of practice that we had, and we worked on it. We got it back, and when they hit the road, they were incredibly focused, and our shoot-arounds were phenomenal. Our energy in practice was great, and so it just was a build-up, and we were ready to play. And when you sit on 13 days of practice in this program, the way we practice, how hard we practice, how long we practice, they were chomping at the bit to play someone else.
What is the biggest thing that you pull from your experience at the Division II level at this point of the year to be able to help you through a deep tournament run?
I think the biggest thing is excitement and energy. That's really all that can carry you through. The teams that are excited and the teams that have juice and the teams that are having fun. The teams that still maintain having fun at this point in time of the year. It's something I've always tried to do with our teams, and I think we're doing a pretty good job at it. But again, let's see how we go in practice today. We have a couple days before we play. These practices are not always the greatest when there's not a game within the next couple days.
Is this why you let them wear whatever shoes they want to wear?
I don't even remember telling them that. They could have made it up for all I know. But at some point in time, I guess they asked me that question and I said sure, and then here we are.
Will they be taking advantage of that creativity?
I'm sure they will be. I'm sure they will be. I don't think all of them will, but I'm sure that we'll have a handful of them that will.
I feel like Z's been on a pretty steady trajectory the last half of the season, but the last game against Ohio State, just her aggressiveness offensively to be hunting her spots and not settling for maybe longer jumpers or a three. Just how would you describe her evolution in that aspect of really, you know, being aggressive with her chances offensively?
Yeah, I think it's big, and again, I think her shot selection has gotten much improved, so her efficiency is better, and I think when she's efficient, she's playing well. But I think that what I've been most proud of her of the last two games was what such a good teammate she was. She was a great teammate. You saw on film, we clipped it up, we showed on film. She went out of her way to give people high fives. She got frustrated for a second and then went out of her way to give people high fives. She's running to pick people up off the floor. And when you're in a tough environment on the road, which all of ours will be from here on out, you need to be a good teammate.
The team mentioned that sometimes that happens like in their tight huddles they have. How much are you seeing that self-belief or like reset happen in those huddles during the game?
Yeah, I mean, again, just our last two games, and it's such a small body of work, but it's our postseason body of work, so it's what matters now. They've been great, and we clipped those up, we showed those, they talked about them, they laughed about them, and hopefully it's something that they can see themselves doing on film, or we are in a tight huddle and maybe our opponent isn't in a huddle at all, and we freeze frame that and we show that, and that matters. Those add up to be points.
Is that something you've always done to kind of show it wasn't necessarily a basketball play, but it was something important from that aspect?
Yeah, and we'll do it early on, early on before we even play a game. We'll clip up body language, sportsmanship, how to be a good teammate. We'll clip it up in practice.
Do you
Why is
grade
that?
it?
Why is that such a
Do
thing?
you grade it? Like, how do you know, like, if it's a good one, bad one?
No, we just talk about it. We show it. I mean, the film sometimes does lie on that. You know, sometimes players figure out how to fake body language and they're saying something bad that the camera doesn't pick up. You do have some of that, but you can usually tell when the energy is good on film.
Why is that something that you've kind of picked up as a coach that you see as really important? Because I don't know how many coaches put that kind of emphasis on that. Why do you think that's something you picked up on?
I don't know if it translates to the men's game at all, but when you're coaching females, you need your sister. You need somebody right there next to you when you make a mistake. And if you make a mistake, I mean, I've been there as a player. I was never the best player on the floor. So when I made a mistake and my best player or somebody else I was on the floor with looked at me and said, I believe in you, keep doing it, then it's washed away. It's the next play, and somebody else believes in me more than I do. And so I think that that's important. I always say, like, you don't play tennis. You're playing a team sport. Be a good teammate.
Is that hard to instill?
With some players more than others.
Right. Thanks,
Cool.
Coach.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, Coach.